There's an ad being pushed on YouTube by the Alliance Defending Freedom about a kid who wore a shirt that said there are only two genders and he got in trouble for it. The ADF is suing for him to be allowed to wear... I have no idea what the you're talking about. I can't find the article, but here's the ad. Wait. This is from 8 months ago. Did you just, like, happen to see this? While on the toilet on your phone? What does this have to do with anything? A random ad saying a kid wore a shirt, but he should be allowed to? It's not just you, Miss Dark and Spooky. There's a bunch of ads about it on YouTube. Yeah, I've got YouTube Premium. Sorry, I'm not seeing that shit. And I don't apologize for it. Remember when YouTube didn't have ads? Do you guys want a hot take? You should all have to buy YouTube Premium or not get to use the website. I actually believe this. This is the one thing I'll agree with Elon on. I just don't think it applies to Twitter. Oh, I'm sorry. You get 50 hours a week of free entertainment at literally no cost to you? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I can't afford it, asshole. Yeah, you can. I know how you guys are. You would forego your third meal every day if it meant being able to use YouTube, and that would add up to quite a bit more than, what is it, $18 a month, however much it costs? It would eliminate YouTubers as a career, though. I promise you it would not. It would probably make things better. You wouldn't have another adpocalypse. It's $14 a month and you use it 16 hours a day. Shut up. Yeah, exactly. When did Vosh become a capitalist pig? You guys know it doesn't actually make sense to have models of entertainment where multi-billion-dollar companies give you something completely for free, right? Like, you're all like, oh, I'll use an ad blocker. Okay, then who's paying for YouTube? It's not free, you idiot. It does cost money to host all that shit in servers. Like, that's a completely unsustainable business model, obviously. Like, you get, like, angry about people using the site, like, you can't use it with an ad blocker on or whatever. Well, of course you can't use it with an ad blocker on. Why would they want you to use their website with an ad blocker on? That makes no sense. I think Google will be fine. No! That's not how this works! That's not how economics works. You can't have a system where you incentivize, like, the baseline is, oh, you don't pay for a server or a service that costs an incredibly large amount of money. They need to make that money from somewhere. If it doesn't make the money, they'll use more ads, more exploitative ad placement. They'll do something, you know? Net neutrality has nothing to do with paying for a website. Those are unrelated concepts. Yeah, but then Thana, that, like, runs its limit because people use ad blockers. And as more people use ad blockers, the ads have to get more and more, like, annoying and longer and harder to skip. And the ad content will appeal more and more to the kind of people who don't use ad blockers, meaning the only ads that people are paying to run anymore, therefore the only stuff getting exposure is boomer shit, because boomers are the only ones who don't run ad blockers. You're creating a very dangerous negative feedback loop that we've been seeing the consequences of for years. Sounds like a better justification for using an ad blocker. Do you really not want to, like, think about this at all? Yeah, Thana, and it makes it worse for everyone. You're right, but ads make me sick. Yeah, well, that's why I'm saying you should pay for YouTube, so you don't have, like, so we don't have the ads. So is your take anti-ad block or anti-whining about ads? I mean, they're both kind of the same, right? If you want to use a service for free, there's going to be annoying ads, and you shouldn't... Like, I'm not saying you're a bad person if you use ad... Okay, let me be clear here, okay? I'm talking about, like, systemic shit, all right? YouTube is a massive site. Your decision to use ad block or not is not going to make the difference in whether or not the site stays afloat at all, okay? I'm talking about it as a system, like, in a broader sense, obviously, like, use your head... There's gonna be ads, or, like, it needs to be paid for through some revenue stream. And there are consequences to mass ad blocking, which, I mean, we're already kind of seeing to an extent. A lot of websites are borderline unusable because they're so full of ads. A lot of that is, like, greed, but a lot of it is also just that's how the site stays up to an extent. But premium is a worse experience than using a modded YouTube app. I don't think you're paying attention to what I'm saying. I have no idea what a modded YouTube app even means. Do you not think they would keep adding even more ads even if nobody blocked them? They might, but the potential for, like, corporate greed shouldn't negate the fact that we have to be realistic about an expected revenue stream for the website, you know? Like, they might do that, but that doesn't mean it's not a problem that a lot of people seem to think that you should be able to get a ton of stuff for free, even if it costs money to provide it to them. Again, I'm not, like, judging you personally for using ad blockers. I'm saying that, like, as a broader pattern, like, yeah, right? You know this won't ever happen, right? I mean, I have YouTube Premium, so it happened with me. You're not wrong, but won't YouTube just take my money and continue being a shithole hell site? I mean, it's not for me. I don't have ads. I'm just talking about ad and revenue sources. I'm not talking about moderation. Yeah, and I think in the long run, Pickle Rick, like that is like an incredibly malicious way of making money, right? Like they make money by getting demographic data on the people from their websites. They sell it so people can use that to target them with ads. That's a pretty bad precedent that we've set, but it's also the literal only way to make money as a social media site anymore, you know? Like, there is absolutely no way to break even on a YouTube or a Twitter or a Facebook or an Instagram or whatever else unless you're doing incredibly aggressive, malicious data harvesting. And it's essentially just because they have like a bajillion terabytes of server storage space and all the bullshit they have to take care of on their end. And you get to use it for free. And the reason you get to use it for free is because you are the product. You are being sold to advertisers as your data is harvested and fed to them so they can like specifically target you. You're next to your phone and you say like, you know, man, I wish I had some pork chops right now. And then you start getting advertisements for local restaurants that have pork chops. All of that, like, I think all of this is bad personally. And I think it'd be cool if it was possible to run social media or websites in general where they didn't have to resort to those really underhanded, exploitative, invasive methods of, you know, making money. And obviously the way to do that would just be a subscription source. The problem being, of course, that like that buying YouTube Premium won't fix this problem. I'm saying in the long run, that is probably the ideal way of handling things, you know? I'm not saying you personally are the issue here. I guess my point is until YouTube Premium can do a fraction of that, there's zero reason to pay for a shitty experience. I don't think you're understanding what I'm saying at all. I'm not talking about your... I don't care about your experience. You mean nothing to me. You're an insect. What I'm talking about here, you egotistical... is the broader, like global, like billions of people are involved in this stream of revenue acquisition for social media sites. I'm not talking about your personal like UI preferences or I bet you have like Linux and you're like, ah, well, until the YouTube Premium, it was free for me to personally edit my website and YouTube application UI. All it took was 18 hours of time, you know? I get it. Well, right, Thana, that's why I'm saying... That's why I'm saying, like, if everyone just got YouTube Premium right now, it wouldn't fix the problem because the broader system of, like, like, data harvesting is still in place. It would just be a viable solution if the ad harvesting stuff was made illegal. Like, right now, if the government pressed a big red button that said you can no longer maliciously harvest user data on social media sites, all social media sites would instantly shut down. Like, just like that, like, instantly, you know? They would just close and there was no way for them to open again. If it was made illegal, you know, they couldn't operate at all. But if you had, like, they need to have a method of revenue acquisition outside of that, because otherwise, like... No, yeah, no, Thane, I know we agree. Yeah, we're in on that. I feel like I opened this in a bad line because I talked about, like, people personally buying YouTube Premium, or like if you bought it, it would fix it. But I don't mean that. I mean, like, in the long run, that would be a preferable way. Donations like Wikipedia. I think Wikipedia should also charge a subscription. Wikipedia is the biggest repository of information on Earth, like, ever, and they're dying. They're dying because you greedy pieces of shit. It deserves it! You greedy fuck! You would let the Library of Alexandria burn because you didn't want to give up the scent of water you had in your bucket. They need the money. It's not greed, dude. They have insane amounts of money. No, they don't. How much have you donated to Wikipedia? I donated $1,000 to them once, if you must know, and I still get emails from them thanking me. Yeah, I could have donated $2,000. And I could have sucked the dick of every homeless man I walked by in the street on Pike and 3rd, okay? I get it. I understand. This isn't a personal thing. I'm just saying, like, man, one of these days, Wikipedia is going to sell itself out, you know? They're gonna be bought by some VC firm, and Wikipedia is gonna have ads on it, like, everywhere. And then you're going to open up the Wikipedia page for Verizon, and the opening paragraph is going to be, Verizon offers top-of-the-line digital service provider. If your needs are cell phones, SIM cards, data acquisition, everything you need, you can get from Verizon. That's going to be like every corporate page that's willing to pay $4.2 million to the VC firm, okay? Hard disagree. Wikipedia should be supported by taxes. Yeah, come on, man. Yeah, if it's nationalized, sure, but I'm saying, like, if it remained private, like, that's like saying, you know, I reject your possible solution to them running out of money and substitute it with a impossible, never gonna happen ideal future. I know Wikipedia is way richer than it wants you to know. I feel like I would need to look into this further to adopt that position. You know what I mean? I feel like there are a lot of ways that you could twist the dials when it comes to how much money they have to make it seem like they're better off than they are. I guess if they do have a lot of money, then I guess that's pretty cool of them. Vosh, why is tax funding impossible? Sure, go to Congress and ask them to do it. 10 million in donations a year is ridiculous. Is it? For a site as large as Wikipedia? I feel like chat has a lot of strong opinions on this, and I wonder if the ratio of, like, strong opinion to informed opinion might be reaching a very... I wonder if we might be reaching a fraction that I'm not comfortable with. Do you want search engines as a whole to cost money? I mean, a lot of this stuff I'd like to have nationalized, but ideally, yeah, I think it should be possible. It costs money to operate something, so the money has to come from somewhere. It can come from taxes if you're nationalizing it or subsidizing it, okay. But, like, I mean, ideally, yeah, I guess. It wouldn't have to cost much. That's insane. How is it... If something costs money to make... If something costs money to maintain or to do or to use, the money has to come from somewhere. Right now it comes from data harvesting and, like, AdSense sales, which is not good. If it doesn't come from a place like that, it can come from taxes, like nationalized taxes, you know, can, like, be funded as a government service. It can be subsidized and remain private, which I don't like, because then it remains private while relying on government money. Or it can have some kind of charge for using it. Donations? I don't think donations are a good way. I don't believe in this, like, libertarian charity will solve the problem of there not being sufficient revenue for these services people don't want to pay for. Vosh, the entirety of Wikipedia is 22 gigabytes. No, it's not. That's not true. That might be, like, the text only, but that's because text doesn't... Like, rather than how much text there is, we should look at how many words there are. It literally is. There are images in Wikipedia. I've used Wikipedia before. There are images. Also, like, 22 gigabytes of text? How many words is that? Like, a trillion? The images aren't strictly required? Then what are you talking about? You're just, like, making up a stat to make it sound like it's small. Text... The bits you need for text are minimal because the way we have bits structured are that it's easy to do text in them because of how bits work. The 22, 24, whatever gigabytes of text, how many words is that? You guys have to not... 4.6 billion words. Okay. You guys have to not delude yourselves into thinking that all these services can just exist totally free of thought or charge. The world you enjoy takes labor and resources to upkeep. It takes electricity. It takes time. It takes thought. It takes effort to upkeep. And right now, the way we keep this up is with an incredibly flimsy, shoddy system of donations and ad harvesting, or sorry, like data harvesting for ads and a lot of, like, weird, creepy shit with a lot of negative externalities, you know? I'm sorry, I'm a believer in the goodwill economy. You should be. It's a deeply right-wing way of thinking about economic superstructures. Wikipedia Commons, which includes the images, video, and other media used, contains 96 million files, or 428 terabytes. Jesus. Wait, is it? I thought that was how the anarchists expected the world to work. Maybe the Twitter anarchists, certainly not me. If something costs something, it needs to be paid to do the thing, as long as you live in, like, a market economy, which we do. Most libraries in America started out as rich people giving money to build them, but as they become essentially a public good, the state took care of them. Wikipedia has been made just as important. Yeah, again, I'm totally down with Wikipedia being nationalized. Search engines as well. It can't be worse than what Google has turned into, you know? The enshittification of the internet has hit Google pretty bad. Now you get an AI summary and then a bunch of, like, irrelevant AI determined follow-up questions that you can get AI answers to, and you scroll down to the, like, sponsored answers at the top, and it's dog shit. Like, nationalize it, sure. Nationalize it and give me Google search how it worked back in, like, 2007, and then congratulations, we're off to the races. Just keep it like that forever. It doesn't need to be changed. Would you do away with the AI then? Happily, yes. Isn't Wikipedia an international good? Yeah, that's another concern too. If it's nationalized, you kind of have it under the thumb of one government, you know? Would like Israel be telling the American government that they're anti-Semitic for not censoring the October 7th article because it includes the information that the IDF like blind fired into crowds because they were so excited to use their cool helicopter guns? That's an issue with it. I'm not saying you should pay like $20 a month for YouTube or anything. Chat defending Vosh's take is Pepega. What is my take at this point even? A service that costs money should cost money? Come on. The link talks about downloading the entirety of Wikipedia, also discusses file sizes. I don't think the size of Wikipedia is really like a good representation of how much work it takes to maintain. Who is more likely to pay for these services? Would it harm leftist creators because they depend on younger audiences who are likely to have less money? What? Do you mean like YouTube? But if every site charges you, how can people use it without going broke? I don't think every site necessarily would need to charge you. You can still run ads without doing the kind of data harvesting that's common for like modern Google ad placement. But I feel like this conversation has kind of gone beyond the scope of what it was meant to be. It's just like, I feel like it's a pretty simple, if a service costs a lot of money to maintain, it should probably have money to maintain it. Wikipedia costs over 160 million a year. What are they doing? 169 spent in the 2022 to 2023 financial year? What the hell? What are they dropping that cash on? It's mostly salary? Yeah, I suppose. Consider the size of Wikimedia, it's massive. Well, the server, okay, again, I'm not like a net coding guy or whatever, but the server costs of maintaining something as big as Wikipedia, it's not so much the file size of Wikipedia altogether, which you could fit on a few hard drives, right? It's getting the requests to see that content, yeah, the traffic, a bajillion times a second. It's the network traffic, you know, because all those, the internet's a bunch of tubes, right? So you have a bunch of tubes coming in. You got to funnel all the tubes properly, right? That's the network traffic. And Netflix and YouTube, they both have a lot of network traffic. Wikipedia could be like one file, and it wouldn't make a difference if everyone was using it that often. It's important to note that Netflix is the only streaming service that's profitable right now, and that was very recent. Well, yeah, it's very inefficient. Getting all of those network pings for HD video for the huge library of stuff that you have, you know, all the different. That's the reason why they take shows off the air on Netflix, by the way, even if they own them or they stop broadcasting them or whatever. It's because they want all of the traffic they get on Netflix to be very deliberately and specifically directed towards the stuff that maximizes their revenue. Like, they don't want idle watching to a bunch of stuff that people don't care about. They want directed viewership that corresponds heavily to continued, you know, subscription, you know, maintenance and paying and so on and so forth, right? It's a pretty system, really. It's because they don't want to pay residuals to people who made it. That's also a part of it. Yeah, that's also a part of it for sure. And honestly, the solution to this would just be that, like, in a lot of cases, live streaming is probably not, like Netflix, live streaming videos, probably not a very good system. You know? You should probably just pay to rent. You can do that off YouTube. It makes a lot of sense. You can pay to rent. $3 to rent a movie? Hell yeah. Seems good to me. We need to rent your streams. No, I'm talking about, well, I mean, we already talked about YouTube. I'm talking about Netflix now. Pay to rent, isn't renting also paying it itself? What? No, what? No, what? Like, of Netflix. So Blockbuster? Sure, but online. These changes would make the service less used. Yeah, but that's not really a fair comparison, because letting stuff be open and free to everyone forever, even if it's like a money hole, will always bring in the greatest number of people, right? So yeah, you might curtail viewership, but if it's a better option for getting people to watch stuff and it pays for itself, can't we just have a publicly funded digital library? We can't worm our way out of every difficult question about digital infrastructure by saying, what if the government ran it? Yes, that would be nice. We can't do that every time. That's what Netflix used to do when it was failing. You go on a website and you see, oh, why did I say Kanye West 4? Keanu Reeves, John Wick 4, the John Wickening. Rent, beep, $3.99. You have 48 hours to watch it. Beep, and then you watch it. I feel like that's a pretty efficient ratio of bandwidth usage to, like, revenue intake. You know? That's Prime Video. I mean, you can also do it on YouTube, yeah. You have a time limit? For renting, usually it's like within 48 hours or 30 or 30 days or something. I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there. Sorry, I just can't get on board with renting every single internet service I want to use. You already pay for Netflix if you have Netflix. I'm only talking about a change to Netflix's model. You already have to pay for Netflix. We're talking about something that already costs money. Oh, I missed that context, my bad. What if I pirate it? I mean, you can pirate stuff if you want. I'm not here to stop you or tell you you're bad for it or anything, but you know that's not a solution to long-term digital infrastructure costs, right? Like, it costs money. If you pirate everything, you can't really get, like, upset if they're canceling shows and games. Why are they canceling them? Because they didn't make enough money, man. I know corporate greed fucks this all up, and Netflix cancels popular shows too. I'm not saying you personally are responsible if you pirate something. I'm just saying we're talking about broader systems here, right? Broader systems. How do we fix these systems? And in terms of, like, the relationship between bandwidth use and, you know, like, revenue generated, choosing a specific movie or TV show and going like, I will pay money to see this, and then seeing it seems all right. YouTube does that already. I know, I said that. Now I'm just arguing with people who aren't listening to me. It's not about pirating, it's about people that feel like they have to pirate. I'm not gonna lie, I think that's total bullshit. The idea that pirates are like these noble consumers who are just outraged by corporate malpractice, and that if you just give them a product worth their time, they're willing to give you. Come on, that's such just admit you don't want to pay for the thing. Don't pretend that you're some kind of like netware warrior, you know, like tactically withholding your cash because you don't want to give the man their corporate satisfaction. Just admit you don't want to pay. Come on. I said shit like that when I was 15. Yeah, what a convenience then that my noble battle against corporate autocracy just happens to overlap with my desire to not pay for this thing that I wanted, you know? What a convenient. It works out pretty well, you know? Again, I'm not saying if you've pirated you're a horrible person. I'm just saying let's be realistic about what we're talking about. That's it. You know, let's not have our heads up our asses. Game dev talking about piracy is just a matter of pricing. I don't like game dev, okay? Live streamer talking about how piracy is a matter of you wanting to play the thing but not pay for it. The important other side of that truth is often neglected. What people pirate, they probably would not buy it if it wasn't available to pirate. I think that really depends. We've expanded the scope of the conversation so far. Netflix killed piracy to a certain extent back when it was the most convenient. Now Netflix is inconvenient, so people are going back to piracy. Yeah, the problem with that, though, is that Netflix was the most convenient when they had most of the market share for live streaming video and TV, and when they were cheap, but they were operating at a loss back then. Now they're breaking even, and people are mad at them. They're like, oh, it's too expensive. They don't have the stuff that I like. The previous model was never sustainable. It's like with Uber. Uber was real convenient back when you could go across town for $6.43. Now that an Uber to the local 7-Eleven is $46. It's like, okay, well, yeah, well, the previous model was also operating at a loss. What we want for a sustainable economic, like, solution is a model that meets those 2 points. This is like Market 101 stuff that meets those 2 points, right? The greatest degree of convenience while also being economically sustainable. Because if it's not economically sustainable, then it can't sustain itself, you know? Uber still operates at a loss, which is, yeah, it's not a good service at all. But Netflix is, well, not Netflix, but the concept of live streaming movies and video. I personally don't want to go back to going to Blockbuster to rent like VHS tapes, right? I personally think that it's cool that I can go on my smart TV or my computer and I can just watch a new show. I think that's pretty cool. So it's a question of how to make that sustainable. What are your thoughts on Amazon putting ads in Prime Video? Well, are they making enough money to break even? Exactly, Nikolai Prime. And this happens all the time in new industries. All of them already are. Most live streaming video services are not already breaking even. It's Amazon. That doesn't answer the question. Amazon's lost money on Twitch. They've lost money on Amazon Prime Video. The fact that it's Amazon doesn't mean that they're breaking even on one of their side projects. You think Amazon's going to run Amazon Prime Video at a loss for fun? Like, do you think that's how corporations work? Oh, it's Amazon. They've got plenty of money, so they don't have an issue with losing money on a service. Of course they want money. Vosh learning about loss leaders? Why are you patronizing me? I'm explaining it to you. What do you mean? Vosh learning about... I'm sitting here with the flashcards and notes trying to hold them up to you. What am I learning in this conversation? The bounds of my patience, apparently, which are seemingly limitless. My students are all morons! Yeah, exactly. None of this is meant to be like apologia for Netflix or Amazon Prime Video or any shit like that. Companies. I'm just saying, if you could imagine like a good version of these companies existing, like a good, like a version of these companies that is morally on the nose and like magically, it's capitalism, right? So like magically morally on the nose, you know? If you could imagine such a thing, how would they operate in a way that allows them to break even? As in not companies. Yeah, you just follow the thought experiment. How would you allow them to operate in a way that they can break even? You can do the mass data harvesting thing. You can have ads peppered everywhere. You can run up subscription costs massively. Personally, I think that having to pay to see a show or movie or something, or maybe like pay a subscription model or get like bundles or something, I think there are probably like good ways of leveling this out, you know? I think most people are just very reluctant to realize the internet as we know it is completely impossible and it will go away. So when you try to tell them that, they just don't want to hear it. I agree. I do agree. Yeah. I think it's like kind of scary to think about that, like a lot of the stuff that we consider to be just innate is very temporal, and on the greater economic timescale, many of these internet-based systems have been around for a very short time, but we take them for granted because our lives are short, you know? So we look at them and we think of them as permanent, when in reality, like, everything is shifting all the time. We do literally live in a society. Can't wait to say back in my day, the internet was X. Back in my day, the internet was X. It was very different 10 years ago to how it is today. 20 years ago, it was even more different. I remember both states of the internet. I remember Google search used to work. You really just want to relive the Blockbuster days? I can see it. No, I don't want to go to a physical store. That seems a bit antiquated. I'm just saying that as a potential model for solving the bandwidth to profit, like, problem, directly renting a show so you can only use the bandwidth from the service to watch it after you've paid like $1 or $2 to see it. That might not be a bad idea. Yes, Owen was hollow. They're almost always bad. Vosh is officially against third place. If you think Blockbuster was ever a third place, your mind is cooked by nostalgia. Blockbusters were cursed. Humming fluorescent white lights, bleaching everything underneath them, visiting at like 11 p.m. while a dead-eyed teenager like stands behind the counter, looking through a bunch of shit movies that no one's ever seen once in all of human history to find like maybe they have in stock the thing you heard recently made its way to video or DVD. Paying like $7-8 sometimes, it varied over time in like the movie, but for a product, then going all the way home and sometimes finding that the tape hadn't been rewound or there was a scratch in the disc and you have to go back and replace it. No one ever talked to anyone else in Blockbuster, okay? Trust me, that place was never a third place, all right? I remember. Redbox was kind of cool. It was kind of like the first stepping stone of what we're, you know. Just pay consumers for watching ads. That would never make money. You would have to be paying people like 1/100th of a cent, and no one's going to sit around watching ads for, you know, 1.3 cents per hour. It's also a really damaging feedback loop too, because the more we oversaturate the internet with ads, the less effective any individual ad becomes. People are less likely now than ever to actually click on or be influenced by internet ads, you know, for products. So as a consequence of that, they're worth less. So people are willing to pay less for them, which means that these streaming services have even less money that they can make off of this like infinite downward spiral. It's only getting worse. It's only getting worse, man. I just want to see Waltz's latest W. That's because you're a sheep, okay? There are plenty of channels that cover the news in more boring terms if you want to cover that, okay? If you want to experience that. We're talking about real politics right now, okay? We're talking about Blockbuster. There are ways to get relatively high levels of convenience candles. The idea that paying these predatory companies will make them less predatory is lib shit. Salma D. Gizbek, if you want to shadowbox and argue with imagined positions, you should reserve that for the shower and the restless moments in your bed before you fall asleep, okay? I don't know why you're projecting positions onto me that I don't hold. Bro, I was angry. Well, I didn't say that. I didn't say what they said I said. I gotta piss real bad. I've needed to piss for a while, too. I've just been so engrossed in the disagreement. Okay, but behind his back, he's totally wrong, right? Should have made sure you were further behind my back. No, I'm not. Pay to Rent was Netflix's OG model. Yeah. Yeah, back when they mailed out DVDs. But that's not really the same service, you know. You don't have to deal with bandwidth when you're mailing out DVDs. World's largest piracy ring, F movies shut down by police in Vietnam. I mean, makes sense. 6.7 billion visits between January 2023 and June 2024. Jesus Christ. Can't kill the Hydra? Well, they arrested some people, apparently, so... Vosh, in the USA, only 11.7% of YouTube users subscribe to Premium. Meanwhile, in Brazil, about 37% of platform users subscribe to the Premium service. Of YouTube, you mean? I don't know why. I kind of get the feeling that Americans might be uniquely bad at money management, or they might be uniquely bad at, like, deciding where they want their money to go. You know? Also, yeah, 11.7% of America. That seems like a lot. It's not funny how conservatives, liberals, and fascists agree on being anti-piracy. Systemically, you should be anti-piracy. If you want to build systems that work in the long run, piracy is not a part of them. Unless you're talking about something so transformative that you're getting rid of like money or commercial, investment altogether. That's not me saying that individual engagement, like acts of piracy, are morally wrong, because I think that's complicated. I'm saying that the broader system, like if you had to make a ruling on it in general, hard disagree. Piracy is a check on media industries. It keeps the price reasonable. I don't think that's true at all, even a little bit. Also, the price isn't reasonable. Video games should be more expensive. $60 for a video game? Are you insane? Might as well hand them out for free. Bro, are you kidding me? Dude, video games were $60 back in the 1990s when they took way less money to make. Now they take more money to make, and they cost like half as much if you account for inflation. Most of the money is from marketing. Yeah, but you reach this like tipping point now where AAA games are all like giga colossal, but they can only break even if 200 million people buy them or whatever, which is an insane... This is like an issue that's plagued AAA gaming for decades now. It keeps getting worse and worse and worse. Consumers won't pay more for a video game, even though a modern video game, it's like, oh, you know, for 100% completion, you have to spend 270 hours roaming the free world or whatever. So, you know, you have to either a ton of people have to buy the game for it to break even, or you have to do the fiddly little microtransaction DLC bullshit. It's difficult for games to stand on their own cost at a AAA level, and the indie level, it varies substantially. Games could cost more if there wasn't all the DLC and micro loot bullshit. Well, the reason there is the DLC and micro loot bullshit is because, like, games are sold free to play or just $60 or whatever. Do you have any idea how much 60 USD means for anyone outside the US? You're pricing out 80% of the world's population. I can't help you with being poor. I'm sorry. I'm literally just talking about like cost to make versus cost sold. That's it. Like, again, it's very, very, very basic economic stuff. Oftentimes games are priced cheaper in regions with less money. But if you're asking me, like, do you really think that people in poorer countries should get less things than people in wealthier countries? Well, I mean, if by get you mean pay for, then that is how that works definitionally. Yeah. If you raise prices like that, you will get infinitely less sales, though, because we've trained consumers to expect everything for now, and it's insane. Oh, Netflix costs money? Bullshit. Pirate it. Video games cost money? Bullshit. Pirate it. You know, I know you people are spending $200 a week on weed. You can't hide it from me. Yeah, with how cheap clothes are as well. I agree with you, but I'm not paying $70 for a game that isn't finished. Oh, I wasn't saying $70. That wasn't the price I was thinking of. Also, speaking of market incentives, what structure is there that incentivizes you guys to miss the point of what I'm saying? Do you think I'm saying, like, yeah, Bethesda deserves more of your money? Or do you think I'm saying there are negative consequences to the dual incentives of consumers not being willing to pay more for video games, even though they cost much, much, much more to make, and developers having to go to alternative revenue streams like microtransactions or DLC bullshit or whatever in order to make back that cost? So publishers are only willing to invest in games that they think are going to be a gigantic, like, mega AAA explosion, which means that a lot of stuff that might have been like a AA title a decade and a half ago now get priced out of the market. There's a reason why we have like a missing middle in video game development now, where you have indie games and then you have a gap, and then you have giant $50 trillion games, like super ultra AAA games that cost, you know, like 8 years, and like 15 people committed seppuku, and, you know, there's an entire, like, lost generation of families who never saw their father because they were so busy working on this game their entire life. We don't really have AA games anymore, and the reason for that is because investors aren't willing to put money into a project they don't think they're going to get enormous returns on, and they need those enormous returns because video games are more expensive than they used to be. Are still paying $60 for them when they cost $60 back when they were fitting the entire game onto a Nintendo 64 cartridge. All of these are facts. You can get mad at me about them. Like, you could, oh, how dare you say I personally should give Bethesda more money? You, come on, just listen to what I'm saying. Why get mad at me for it? It's just true. Risk of Rain, indie game. Lies of P, a AA game. Power World, slop. What do you get? Are you denying that there's a lack of AA games? Are you delusional? Why are you being contrarian? Are you seriously denying the lack of AA? Come on. Your solution is wrong, Vosh. Instead of games being more expensive, they should have smaller budgets. Yes, except consumers like those gigantic, like, high fidelity games. That's why the indie market is expanding, because people there are more willing to get games that don't have, like, you know, Unreal 5 engine, you know, a like under boob sweat particle physics or glisten or whatever. But a lot of people do like that AAA graphical fidelity, and you don't really get that much in the middle because, again, there's a lack of, like, investor interest because it's a risky prospect. That's kind of my thing. My point is the indie is the AA market now, but it's definitionally not, though. That kind of thing just didn't... What's your opinion on the whole PS5 Pro situation? Do people go like, oh my god, only $1,800 for a new GPU, but they get mad at a $700 console? You know, a lot of consoles are sold to you guys at loss because they want to make it back on the games. That's like, particularly with, you know, the fact they publish a lot of their own games. And they're still too expensive. Does anyone else feel like it's a little bit weird that for all of the things we've talked about in the past hour, these are completely unnecessary luxury products that are being sold under cost to produce, and you guys are still complaining about how expensive they are? Does that, like, isn't that a little bit weird economically? Like, these are all luxury. We're not talking about food or water or housing or clothing or anything else that you need to live. We're talking about things that you purely buy for entertainment, and they are being sold cheaper than they cost to produce and so on. Holy shit, you guys, time your shit so it doesn't come out like that. And we're still saying, like, oh no, this charged too much. Well, okay, what do we do then? Okay, I'll read the long text though. I agree, Manifusion, yeah. People's purchasing power stagnated for the past like 3 decades, but also the issue with video games is the poor money management, too much money on advertising. It's more expensive than development. CEOs and higher ups are getting millions of bonuses. I don't disagree with any of that. I don't disagree with any of that, but it doesn't solve the underlying issue. It's just like an added thing on top of that, you know? We can't do anything. We don't have the power. I know, and I'm not here to like blame any of you. The only people in chat I'm getting mad at specifically are the people who I feel are aggressively misinterpreting what I'm saying, okay? I like you. It's just an unsustainable practice that leads to negative consequences. I just want people to be realistic and understand what those negative consequences are and like how they happen, you know? I'd happily pay $100 for Hollow Knight. I think we unnecessarily devalue video games. I've paid $100 for like, oh, just go out and have a meal with a friend and I cover the bill. $100. Would I pay $100 for a video game? I feel like I'd go like, you know, like, right? But it's like, for Hollow Knight, are you kidding me? If we scaled the relative enjoyment that I got from Hollow Knight and compared it to like even a good meal for how much time I put into it, how much I cared about, and waiter, $800 on Hollow Knight, please. More DLC, please. $200 pack, yes, please. Like, okay, it's a good ass game. I don't know. I guess it just makes me sad sometimes that it feels like even in the indie market, everyone has to undercut everyone else. I've seen like a lot of this stuff you guys don't see because you don't have the third eye like I do. But, you know, devs get really anxious when they spend like 2 or 3 years making a game because they know that if they price it at $15, there are going to be people in the comment section being like, for only $5 more, you can get Hollow Knight, which was $20. And there's more gameplay in that. $15 is too much for a 6-hour experience. Since when? People were paying $60 in $1997 for an 8-hour experience back in the day. Now you're $15 for like a unique indie project. You should be paying more in terms of like dollar per hour invested for an indie game because you're giving it to a damn solo dev or something or a team of 4 people. They were getting scammed back in the day? No, they weren't. Well, except in the sense that, like, capitalism's a scam, I guess, but, you know. And now there are like, indie game devs who are, like, scraping together everything to release a game that they price at, like, $8.99 because they're desperately trying to avoid the people in the Steam reviews who are like, not worth it for the money. And it's like, man, we have undervalued these services. We should be paying more for clothes. We should be paying more for video games. We should be paying more for a lot of stuff that doesn't matter as much and less for a lot of stuff that does matter as much. We should be paying way the less for rent, way the less for food, way the less for medical care or for anything that's like necessary. We should be paying jack shit for all that. We should just be getting that shit. But for stuff like the creative process for luxury goods, for stuff that people are like, you don't need it to live, you're making it because you want to like make a person's heart sing. Yeah, maybe we do undervalue that. Maybe it's kind of that we'll go to a restaurant and spend you know, $100 on a meal, but then we get snooty about 10 times as much time being spent positively with an experience costing 1/10 as much. Why didn't you mention that first? I'm sorry, because I'm an idiot and I forgot that unless I specifically say so, chat thinks I think rent should stay the same. Sorry, my bad. I'm a moron. So I forget that chat forgets all of my political positions unless I specifically like re-express them in every argument. So I have to go, hey, by the way, I think that housing should be decommodified and rent should be cheap. Like, so I forgot about that. My bad. Because up until this point, people in chat have just been like, I can't believe he wants the status quo to stay the same. And I have to pay more for video games. Sorry, I forgot. I know this was like, I know that was hard for you. Do you agree with lower region-specific prices for poorer regions? Sure, but that's up to the dev, right? Because ultimately, the dev's doing that out of generosity. You know? It's not like they're providing a service that's cheaper in your poorer country because they have to pay less wages. You're just buying it cheaper. If you're buying it off Steam, like, you're not getting a reduced cost version of the product. No, Gravel Queen, I get that. I'm just saying that, like, they're doing that at discretion, not in response to, like, the cost of distribution. But yeah, it can be, I mean, yeah, if it works, right? Like, better to price a game cheaper in, I don't know, the Dominican Republic and have a bunch of people buy it than to have it priced at the equivalent USD and have nobody buy it because it's too expensive. I get that. Well, I'm talking about digital downloads Doomer posting. For imports, that's a whole different, yeah, that's a different thing. I know you wanted to say Haiti. Why are you putting that evil on me? You know perfectly well they don't have electricity over there. I'm sorry. I shouldn't make jokes at the expense of Haiti. I just want everyone to be clear. I think Haiti purely due to like a sustained act of God. It has nothing to do with like, oh, it's, you know, they're just bad over there or what. It's literally like the French and the United States and the IMF and the World Bank. And so like constant, sorry, by act of God, I mean the West. But like, yeah, I don't want to imply the West is God. It's an act of God with the stuff like the tsunamis and the hurricanes and the earthquakes and the blah, blah, blah. And then, you know, you have, and then the West and so on is, when I make those jokes, I'm making them sympathetically. Like, goddamn, you know, I feel really bad for them. Except for barbecue. The barbecue guy, he seems kind of bad. Well, anyway. You know, to like lay bare my emotional biases, I've always been really interested in indie game development because I'm one of those types of people who's like, I've got an idea for a great game. I'm going to learn how to do it in Unity. And then 2 months later, I at some point I go, yeah, it turns out it is pretty tough. You know, we love our idea guys, don't we? But I'm keyed in enough on like indie dev discourse to know the question of pricing is like a really tough one. A really tough one. If you can go to a local farmer's market and get like a piece of art, like pottery made by someone, like a local craftsman, and that's what they are, a local craftsman. We like to devalue this. We like to say, you know, oh, some hippie chick had her like garage pottery art for sale there for like $30. Why would anyone want that? That's a craftsman. You spit in the face of God. That's what humans have been doing for all time. You make shit and then you put it to sale at the local market. This like you're gonna go back home to your day and corn chips, and meanwhile she's out there like embracing the species being. That's a craftsman or craftswoman, I guess, in this one, because you know, women in pottery, am I right? But you buy that for $30, and like these indie devs, they're selling their games for like $3. I don't know. I just want us to value art a little bit more. And that includes even Corpo Slop AAA art. If it's done well, right? Like, I mean, in concept, you know? Maybe not Corpo Slop, but like bigger games. Making and selling an indie game rewired my brain for RC cost. So it's Elaine now. Do you agree with me then? Because you've like... You've experienced this, so you agree with me on it? 100%? Oh, thank God. Okay, yeah, just... I'm okay with like anecdotal evidence as long as it agrees with my preconceived biases. If it doesn't, then you can shut it. Did you see how much people in the UK are paying for Oasis concert tickets? That okay, I don't defend any of that. Ticket prices have been completely like Ticketmaster and other comparable services, like annihilated, you know? That's a whole other thing. That's not we're like divorced from the market incentives to a large extent there. No, and I get that, Lefty. I want people in developing countries or people in poorer countries or whatever, right? I want them to be able to enjoy this stuff as well. You know, I do believe this. I don't understand something. You recognize there are issues that are beyond the scope of users and instead to legislation, like decommodified housing. Why are you jumping to more expensive games when there are other ways to fix the game industries without increased prices? Quite the opposite, through proper legislation and unions. Because I don't think legislation and unions can fix what I'm talking about. I'm purely talking about like how much we value some services and products. If we pay $15 to see a movie, $100 for a restaurant, but you're paying $60 for Elden Ring, are you like, think about that. Compare the price to enjoyment ratio of Elden Ring to anything else that you do. Like it's crazy. Waiter, $1 billion for Elden Ring, please. And again, a part of it is just consumer expectation. The only reason Elden Ring wasn't a flop is because it sold that much. But imagine a different world. Imagine a world where at some point between the release of Sekiro and Elden Ring, the public kind of turned on difficult Souls-like games. And when Elden Ring released, rather than getting like 13 million sales, it got like 1.2. Goodbye, FromSoft. It's been fun. You made a masterpiece, but you only had it purchased by over 1 million people. Sorry. That's the kind of thing I'm talking about. And I'm not saying this would all be solved if you paid $300 for Elden Ring. I'm just saying it's worth thinking about the relative investment of money to make something versus how much you pay for it, and how much these games have to succeed to not become flops. And I wouldn't say masterpiece, lots of reused content. Okay, Joseph Anderson, let's wrap it up. Let's wrap it up. Okay. Yes, I agree. It's a lane now that with digital goods, it's an odd one. I agree. I want to understand something about your argument. You often compare buying a game to buying a steak or something. Isn't it kind of dishonest to compare like a one and done good versus something that could be infinitely copied for relatively free? Well, that's how it looks from the outside, right? But from your experience as a consumer, it's the same. You pay an amount of money, you get a product or service. The question is like, it's difficult to abstract these things because the initial construction of the game was done like at massive cost, and you have to pay that back like in an average with so and so many. Like you can't like cook one steak, one person gets it, you break even. You make the game, 1 million people need to get it, or you don't break even. It's a different system, but you can't think of it as like, oh well, Elden Ring is basically free because once you make the one, you have infinite because it's just a file you can copy. Because if that's the case, like you're not making money off of anything. Hey, DM. I am doing well today, though. I've been trying to exit this conversation for a while, and I'm being kind of impeded by me continuing the conversation. And I agree, by the way, DM. I don't mean to suggest that this problem is caused entirely by, like, consumers being dipshits. While that is certainly a part of it, a lot of it is also, like, enormous corporate greed and them facilitating and nurturing and incentivizing really bad tendencies that benefit like the shareholders and disincentivize the creative process. I agree with all of that, you know. I just mean like even if we solve for those problems, we're still kind of dealing with like a weird cost barrier for some points of entry, some levels of investment. And yeah. Look, I've got to read donos. I thought I'd be doing this like 30 minutes ago. We did politics at some point today.